you're listening to In the Books, a podcast where nerds discuss books made into TV shows. We're the nerds.
I'm Michelle. You can find me at Musings on the socials.
And I'm Rita. I'm at Annoying Rita on Instagram.
And this week we are discussing episode 7 of Normal People, an adaptation of the amazing Sally Rooney novel. And as always, we will start with a recap of the episode. Take it away!
Oh, God. The episode begins with a fully dressed Connell passed out on his bedroom floor in Sligo. The birds chirping outside wake him up, and he groans in agony as the full force of his hangover hits him. Oh man, that was visceral.
Yeah.
We get flashbacks to the previous night where he sits morosely in the local pub, downing his drinks as Rob prattles on beside him. In case you're wondering what could possibly be fueling this binge, we get a flashback to 6 weeks earlier when he tells Marianne he won't be in Dublin for the summer, and there's a lot of jump cuts. She appears indifferent, and when he says, quote, I guess you want to see other people, or Marianne jump in with an interjection here, she coolly responds with a yes. Okay, so we're out of the flashback within the flashback. 6 weeks later to Connell's night out in Sligo. He is drinking on the dance floor of that shitty club, completely off his face, when he's approached by, I said borderline sex offender, I'm going to just say sex offender, Mrs. Neary. What up, Miss Neary?
Because she's been eyeballing him for a long time.
And that's what makes it wrong.
Yeah.
It is not long before they are doing disgusting things to each other in front of a kebab shop. We've all been there. Mrs. Neary invites Connell over to her place. He claims he's going to be sick and wanders off into the night. Make good choices. Meanwhile, Marianne is also in Sligo. We see scenes of her doing housework and keeping herself busy between massive moping sessions on the lawn as she sunbathes. It seems she too cannot get over the breakup, and we get another flashback to the night, this time from her perspective. And Connell says, so I guess we should see other people. No dot in this scenario. This is just a statement. And she sort of stutters a guess so. Completely different memories. Like, what is the truth here?
We'll have to go back and watch that episode again. No, I'm kidding. Marianne is walking through the local supermarket when she suddenly sees Connell, who looks shocked to see her. He gives her a ride home, because it's pouring down rain, and it's basically like, hey, Marianne, why didn't you tell me you were in town? And she explains she's just back for the weekend because it's her dad's anniversary mass. Connell offers to attend, but she asks him not to. He changes the conversation to her new boyfriend, Jamie. Yeah, this has been telegraphed from the very beginning. But, yeah, Jamie. Didn't take very long for that weasel to make his move. She asks if he's been seeing anyone, but he isn't, as soul-crushingly desperate to never be alone. The conversation is more than a little tense, so Connell just blurts out, I would rather just know if you don't want to be friends. And Marianne interrupts him with reassurance that she does in fact still want a friendship. She even invites him over for some tea. He declines to go put away the shopping he has in his car, but this is the first baby step of many. The next day, Connell puts on his dress shirt and goes to Marianne's father's anniversary mass. Despite her saying she didn't want him there, when she sees him, she gives him a small smile, thankful. See? Friendship saved.
All you need is an anniversary mass, apparently.
Yeah.
Where do I get one of those?
Well, when you die, is when you get one of those. So don't be in a rush for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We cut to September. Connell meets Marianne at an outdoor cafe for a coffee and a catch-up. They discuss the upcoming skulls. For clarity, skulls are awarded to those who achieve a first-class honours average in a set of challenging, voluntary examinations held in January, which test a student's ability to, quote, consistently demonstrate exceptional knowledge and understanding of their subjects, end quote. Yes, I googled it, thank you. Benefits include waived tuition fees, rooms in college, dining rights at comms, and a post-nominal title. So you can add shka to your
alphabet.
SCH.
So the alphabet soup that follows your name as you get your advanced degrees. Nice.
That's nice. I mean, I've never seen that, but good for them. Typically, less than 1% of the undergraduate population is awarded the scholarship, which is like, damn. So, of course, both Marianne and Connell will be taking those fucking exams. Connell then asks about Jamie. Change the subject. Marianne seems to think Connell intimidates Jamie, which is understandable because the man screams fragile masculinity. They somehow get into a discussion about Marianne's sex life with the fragile one. Turns out he's a bit of a sadist. Connell takes a drag of a cigarette and declares that it, quote, sounds fucking horrible, end quote, which is fair enough. Marianne explains that she has to pretend to feel a certain way, as if she is under Jamie's control. It's all an act. But it was different with Connell because she genuinely felt as if she would do anything Connell asked of her. Cut to Connell's walk home. He imagines Jamie roughly fucking Marianne and pulling her hair, and he looks pretty upset about it. It's not a vibe for him.
Yeah.
I feel pretty upset with him for making me watch it. Cut to January. Oh no, jump cut. Marianne, Connell, and Peggy all sit for the Skulls exams. Marianne looks over her shoulder and sees Connell. They share a small smile before turning back to their work. You're going to see a lot of little shared smiles this episode.
April. Skulls are being announced in Parliament Square at Trinity, and Connell joins the crowd as the list of English scholars are announced. His name is, of course, announced, and his BFF, Noll, is there to hug him and call him a, quote, absolute fucking nerd, end quote.
I love that.
Yes. This means all Connell's financial worries are essentially over. Then the history and politics scholar is announced, and it is, of course, Marianne. All of her friends crowd around her, hugging and cheering. Jamie is there to give her a kiss. Gross. But she makes sure to give Connell a nod and a smile.
Which I'm tired of that now.
Yeah.
Bitch, have a conversation.
Yeah. Later that night, Marianne is throwing another fucking dinner party. Has she not gotten sick of these yet? Peggy is driving everyone crazy by talking about how amazing Berlin is, but she is in a room full of posh kids, so Jamie rather derisively points out that everyone's fucking been there, and she's making out like she just got back from Syria. Peggy makes a dig about Marianne being a country bumpkin who could never have possibly been to Berlin, which is really fucking rude considering this party is to celebrate Marianne being the cleverest history and politics student Trinity has ever known. Plus, you're in her damn house eating her food.
Just shut up, Peggy.
Yeah.
It's just Berlin. Not to be a snob, but I agree with Jamie. It's very manageable from where you live.
Let's just lock Jamie and Peggy in a room together and throw away the key.
What would come out?
Well, back to the recap. Jamie begins to make a toast to Marianne, and an embarrassed Marianne's phone rings.
She heads barefoot outside to pay for a taxi. Connell gets out of the car with blood all over his face and clothes. When they get inside her flat, he explains that he was mugged, and instead of just handing over his wallet, he refused and got punched in the face. Classic. He rang Marianne because her phone number was the only one he knew off by heart. Oh, I don't think I know any telephone numbers off by heart, but that's sweet. He admits to being pretty fucking drunk, and believe you me, he fucking looks it. I mean... He's stumbling around like Bambi and blurting every thought that comes out of his head. Just good time, Connell.
No
For example, No, when he learns Jamie is downstairs, he pretends to walk back out the front door and says, maybe I'll just go back outside and get punched in the face. It wasn't that bad. Love that. Cut to downstairs. Everyone is in the kitchen. Jamie is off on another right-wing rant about, quote, low-life scum, end quote. Yeah, I'm not exactly on the mugger's side, but the assumption that he is stealing to buy drugs feels very, loaded. Like, he is 1 second from going on a rant about foreigners, you know. The rest of Marianne's friends feign concern for Connell. Well, except, you know, Peggy, who wants to make it down to the pub before it closes. They all leave Marianne to clean up Connell by herself.
Her first act is, of course, to make a cup of tea. Connell complains that she could have any guy she wanted, but she chose that dickwad. He would literally prefer anyone else to him, Jamie, of course. He would prefer the guy who mugged him to Jamie. I mean, damn. Marianne asks
Connell
him...
is the best Connell.
Yes. Marianne asks him why he cares, and he counters by asking if she loves him. This conversation is far more serious and intimate than it has a right to be, so Colin tells her that he has a girlfriend. He probably should have mentioned it before, but they have barely seen each other in months. Her name is Helen Brophy, and she studies medicine. Marianne then asks the obvious. Why were you trying to get her to break up with Jamie, Connell? He tells her he wants her to be happy as a friend. Marianne bursts into tears and asks him to leave, which then leads to a very funny moment where he has to explain that he can't because he has no money, and Marianne remembers he was mugged. So she goes to get him some money. That was really cute. Connell then tells her that he's still a bit confused about what happened between them last summer. He admits he had kind of hoped that he would have been able to stay at her place. Marianne is confused and says she thought he was breaking up with her. She says she obviously would have let him stay. Always, she says. And on that devastating bombshell of a realization, Connell leaves. He gets in a taxi and heads to Helen's place, where she puts her med student credentials into good use by patching up her boyfriend.
What did you think of this depressing episode?
I thought it was good. I think that, we are able to see, how these two are really just kind of fumbling around. Besides their performance in school, which is clearly brilliant, and the whole craziness of their relationship is not impacting their studies in any way. I think that, seeing the two of them, getting their mopes on, to the nth degree, was a nice montage to demonstrate just how depressed and confused and all of that, that they were experiencing. But I thought that the way that they ended the episode with the opportunity for clarification about what happened, and, them both discovering that it's just a massive miscommunication, that broke them apart, kind of puts them on reset, I think. Yeah. So, anyhow, what did you think of this episode?
Oh, well, full disclosure, on rewatches I usually skip this episode just because I'm so excited about Italy. Usually I'm just like, okay, I get it, you broke up. Italy. I get it, you're sad, bye. But it's a very good episode. I don't know why I skip it. I guess because it's just so sad. I find it too painful. All the stuff with Miss Neary is particularly traumatizing, but then you get the just everything else is pretty sad.
I know.
All of it is sad. Like, the highlight for me is obviously Neil telling him he's a fucking nerd. Like, that's the only point of joy I have in this episode.
Yeah, that scene where they're all in the square, awaiting the results. I found that to be just thrilling, and, thinking about, how this tradition, has gone on for God knows how long. And, that it's a moment of excitement, and you get a chance to cheer on your friends who took the test, and I just love that. I thought that was really cool.
It's great if you're one of the people who gets the scholarship, but I kept looking at all the other people like, hey,
yeah,
sorry guys, you tried,
but this is the Connell and Marianne show. So,
sorry everyone else. Sorry, Peggy.
Have a seat.
I think one of the best parts of the episode actually is the quote-unquote breakup scene, or the two different versions of it.
Yes.
Oh my god, so good. I love this choice. Mm-hmm. So in the book, the breakup is entirely from Connell's perspective.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really clever way and a visual way of communicating the way the miscommunication can happen, and how they just have two completely different memories of the same event.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was so...
Which is not uncommon.
Right?
It's not uncommon for that to be the case. And, oftentimes, if you've ever had a falling out with your friend and, you haven't spoken to them in, quite some time, you eventually, bury the hatchet. You try to do a post-mortem on what happened, and, you discover that you heard things differently than they did. So, I mean, it's totally believable, but I think this is the first time I've ever seen it depicted this way.
Yeah, same. And they did it in a really clever way.
Yeah.
Like, you get those really intense close-ups, which is so frustrating to watch because, as a viewer, we're sort of used to having more of an objective perspective of like, whoa, what's the other person thinking and feeling, and how are they reacting? And you're just stuck on like Marianne's face as she hears things.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly frustrating because you're like, this isn't what happened, Marianne. Pull out.
Yeah.
It's just such a visual and emotional way of dealing with this sort of problem of miscommunication. It's so smart. I love it.
Yeah. Really clever. And I think that the way that they wound up wrapping up the episode with the, well, I heard this and you heard that, and
whoopsies. And it's like, hey, it's a whole year later. You've wasted a year on a miscommunication. Because it's not even just that they had that miscommunication the first time. It's they've seen each other so many times since then and not fixed it. They're idiots. They're dum-dums.
Oh, you crazy kids. Well, how about book versus the episode?
So, again, very similar. Always very similar. I think one thing that the show has only really hinted at, which is much more detailed in the book, is Marianne's unraveling toxic friendship with Peggy, and the way Peggy's undermining her in public and trying to push her buttons and trying to take her down a peg in front of all of their friends.
Yeah.
And then in private being like, oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. And like trying to get close to... I think in the book she's saying that she's started staying at Marianne's place all the time and really depending on her. And that whole relationship is just like a very toxic dynamic.
Yeah, I just... well, first of all, I have to give my props to the actress that's playing Peggy, because she's doing a really great job of it. I am finding that my dislike of her on screen is on par with how I felt about her in the book. So, that to me gets like a gold star, because she's really brought that character. She's brought that character to life. But I think I'm glad that we didn't get more into the relationship that Marianne has with Jamie, because as I recall, we spent a lot of time in the book about her and Jamie, and if not, acting, then she was like thinking about ruminating, all that kind of stuff. And I just want him to serve his purpose and be gone. I am ready for him to go away.
Italy, you can't come fast enough. I think like what I miss about the Peggy and Marianne stuff is that you very rarely see like unhealthy dynamics bleed into friendships on screen. Like it's always like, oh, toxic relationships are always romantic.
Yeah.
That's so not true.
Yeah.
That's so not true of real life. In real life, if you've got maybe unhealthy relationships, it can bleed into friendships, family members, co-workers.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything.
Absolutely.
And I think seeing this play out into her friendships, because I think like the whole dynamic of public humiliation, but privately being like very cozy, it reminds me so much of what happened between Connell and Marianne at school. And I think there's a part of her that just has sort of accepted this kind of treatment. And it's just like very clever, Sally Rooney. Very clever. It's just like, if you definitely have been to therapy because you understand how we repeat patterns all the time in our personal relationships.
Yes.
It's just like fantastic.
Yes.
I think like the more major difference, really major, Connell tells Marianne about his, I'm going to call it sexual assault. I'm going to be firm on it because we have previously gotten a lot of pushback for things we called rape on Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte. The people were like, that was a rape. I'm here to tell you, I'm not changing my mind. This is an assault. There was no way he was in a state to give consent, and quite frankly, the entire time he was a student, their relationship was inappropriate and predatory. So if I get another email being like, I really disagree with you calling this assault, I'm just going to delete it because I am tired, yeah. I'm tired.
No, I totally agree. I have a real problem with individuals who are in positions of power, and I think everybody does, or everybody should. Individuals in a position of power and utilizing that to weasel their way into an intimate relationship with someone who is younger or like much younger, or someone who is not in a condition to be able to consent to whatever it is that's going to be taking place. So
she really hit the trifecta in terms of...
Yeah, she did.
all of the things that were wrong.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But, so, Marianne does learn about this. He tells her about it at the coffee shop in that conversation.
Yeah.
In the show, she says, so what's up with you? In the book, she asks the same question, then he tells her about his assault. Why do you think they excluded that in the TV show?
That's a good question.
Because to me, it felt like in the TV show, they had drifted further apart than they had in the books because they didn't have this moment.
Yeah. I don't know. When you think about, how they interacted during this period of time in the book, I don't want to say it was like a bearing of souls, but, there was, I'm going to share exactly what's going on with me, and you share exactly what's going on with you. And
yeah, they just don't have a filter with each other, do they? It's just
not
like,
really.
hey, this has happened.
Yeah. And this is the first filter we're seeing with them since they reunited in college. The college reunition? You know what I mean.
Reunion is just the word.
Reunion.
You're trying to
yes.
overcomplicate things.
Yes. So, I
think this might bleed a little bit into some of Connell's later mental health struggles that he hasn't had an opportunity to.
Right.
Because, I mean, he's just... This is traumatic.
We've yet to delve into that.
Well, I think maybe it might feed into that later. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Or they were like, hey, we've only got 30 minutes. We don't need to add...
we don't need to add this to...
this is a whole episode.
An already chock-a-block 30 minutes. Plus, I guess it's one of those things where you think about, does the inclusion of this discussion that he has with Marianne about what happened, does it serve to move the story forward?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think the answer is not. It doesn't move the plot forward.
No.
And I think it sort of adds confusion to the fact that they are supposedly growing quite distant.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you... In the novel, you can add the complexity of the fact that they're still being quite emotionally honest with each other when they're in contact.
Yeah.
But in the show, it doesn't make much narrative sense for them to have like this heart-to-heart and then later on be like, hey, I haven't fucking seen you. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I sort of get it.
Yeah.
But it is a real shame because that's one of my favourite scenes because she's like, I will slit her throat.
Yes.
And I was like, I understand. Yeah.
It's like, ooh, Marianne just went mama bear.
Understandable.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, Marianne.
Yeah.
Jamie.
No!
I find the speed with which Marianne jumps into this relationship with Jamie baffling. This girl is jumping from relationship to relationship. If you think about it, in the span of a year, she's gone from Connell, Gareth, Connell to Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she has not been alone at any point.
Yeah. And, it was, you had written in the recap how, it's very clear that Marianne is absolutely terrified of being alone, as opposed to Connell, who is just like, oh, just give me a book, I'll be fine.
He's an introvert.
Yes, indeed. Unite. But, Jamie has been hovering around her forever. And, I think that Marianne getting together with Jamie was an absolute rebound. And it's one of the reasons I'm sure that Jamie is absolutely intimidated by Connell, because he knows that the relationship that she and Connell have with one another is so much deeper and so much more fulfilling than anything he could ever offer her. And so, he, I'm sure, has been sitting fat and happy with Connell out of her life. And so when she winds up seeing him again and Connell re-enters Marianne's sphere, or her orbit, Jamie is not a happy camper. Miserable little sod.
I think he's always fucking miserable. That's the thing with Jamie.
Yeah. He's got a whole host of stuff going on in his head and his self-esteem and the whole 9 yards.
I love that she is like, oh, it's because he's short. And it's like, no, that's not.
No.
That ain't it. It's his personality, babes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jamie's just the worst.
Yeah.
I think she just got with Jamie because he was around a lot, which is so sad.
Yeah.
And the way she speaks about him to Connell, of just being like, well, he's short. I'm taller than him. Like, stuff like that. She just has such little respect for him.
Yeah.
And he's just an easier option for her as well, because he's already part of her friend group. Quite frankly, he's wealthy. He's connected. He just slots into her life in a way that is simple and uncomplicated, unlike Connell.
Yeah.
And that's just going to reinforce a lot of Connell's insecurities about his class. Like, in the novel, that's much more explicitly stated that he's like, oh, cool, she's with the son of a millionaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That can take her out and do fancy things. It's not an accurate depiction of how Marianne feels, but this is, again, Connell's insecurities are that he is working class and he has never felt comfortable around her very obnoxious friends. So this is natural.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh,
Jamie.
If you guys just talked, please.
If they talked, we wouldn't have.
We wouldn't have a story.
Of a show.
Yes, I know. But one of the things that gets introduced in this episode is Marianne's relationship with Payne. And while she doesn't identify herself as a masochist, and I can't remember, does she do that in the book?
No, she does say that Jamie
She says that he's a sadist.
He's sadist.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that she's the one that suggested this relationship dynamic. She wanted to try being submissive. So it was obviously something she was toying with. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because we have to think about what the appeal of this dynamic is for her. She describes it as acting. Yeah. Which is interesting. I think she obviously enjoyed the sensation of being completely devoted to Connell and willing to endure anything. And she doesn't feel that way about Jamie, obviously. Yeah. And it's just I think she's trying to recreate a part of that for herself. Yeah. And it's like in this way that it's not authentic. I don't think it's something that the way she spoke about it was just very clinical and like detached. Yeah. 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 I mean, I think that there is a distinction between, the whole dominance submission dynamic and the sadomasochistic dynamic. Yeah. And I don't think she's clear on what the distinction is, though. Exactly. It's like you don't have to be beaten. Yeah, exactly. In order to be a submissive. Yeah. And you don't have to even I know that, somebody. And I'm the most vanilla person you could ever meet. Yeah. So, I think that, she is just fumbling her way through this whole situation, I think. She doesn't know what she's doing. Yeah. And, I don't know if, I hope that she is able to figure this out, because, I can see her going from person to person, trying to figure this thing out in her head, and it only becoming more and more confusing. But I think the root of it is her trying to feel what she felt with Connell. And she can't get that with other people. Yeah. And, this is an act of desperation almost from her of, I can't have a normal relationship with Jamie because he's insufferable. Like, let's try something that will make it tolerable for me. And like she said, it's just an act.
Yeah.
So it's just, and I think also it's important to say that on a subconscious level, she is associating pain and maybe even emotional pain with love because of the abuse in her family.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And also the dynamic with Connell was always quite fucked up and caused her a lot of emotional pain. So she doesn't have a very good perspective on what is going on emotionally with herself, and she is a whole mess.
Yeah, and I have to continually remember that
she's very young.
These are like what 21-year-old kids, if that, when all this is going on.
Yeah, it's very hard because they're so intellectual. You're like, okay, you're not 35. Let's calm down. Yeah.
Their poor little brains haven't finished growing yet. Exactly.
So we're like, why are they having miscommunications? It's because they're 20. Yes. This is normal.
Yes. Word no work for me now. Yes. No.
To be honest, they're a lot more emotionally mature than I was at their age, I think, looking back. I mean, you think you're emotionally mature and you look back and you're like, what was I doing?
Well, of course. I mean, I continually think about what I would say to my 20-year-old self if I had the opportunity to go back. I would do my best. I would do my best not to slap the crap out of myself.
Younger me would just be like, she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. I'm going to just do me.
So anyhow, I'm sure we'll get to have more playtime with pain as we move further into this story.
That's why I like the Italy episode. It's just a reprieve. It's like, let's eat some gelato and not care. Unfortunately, we have to talk about the rest of the episode.
Yeah. But,
okay, Connell.
We're almost done.
So, I thought the scene of his assault was obviously horrifying, but what troubled me almost more was just how much he was drinking in this week's episode.
Oh my God.
And I think this is a particular problem with men. It's like culturally ingrained in men that when they are upset, they can turn to booze because they don't have the same kind of support network that women do.
Right.
They don't have, during a breakup, you'll go to your friend and they might come over with some wine, but it's not to get like off
it's
your
not
face.
To get hammered.
No, it's just, it's a ritual where we just sit there and we vent and we talk to each other. And honestly, that is a privilege that we have as women.
Yes.
Men do not have that. Yeah. By contrast, when Connell feels down, and we've seen this in previous episodes, he just starts drinking his feelings away.
Yeah.
And he admits in the novel that he went out that night in Sligo. His intention was just to feel numb. Because he was in so much emotional pain that his response was just like, I will numb myself with alcohol. And I thought what Sally Rooney is exceptionally good at throughout all her novels is highlighting the ways in which the patriarchy has fucked up men psychologically and emotionally.
Yeah.
And how they have unhealthy coping mechanisms, and alcohol is definitely one of them, and particularly in Irish culture. Not to call you out, Ireland. England is very similar, but it's just much more normalized, Yeah. And I mean, I think he was drunk for longer than he was sober in this episode.
Yeah, I think he was too, and it's so hard to see him trying to navigate through all of this pain that he's experiencing. And I mean, we were just talking about Marianne and her relationship with pain. She is welcoming it. as opposed to Connell, who is doing everything he possibly can to numb it.
Yeah, in that respect, I definitely relate more to Connell. I would rather binge drink. Woo! I think it's arguably worse for you, like the hangover. Like, he did not look well.
Yeah.
Poor man.
Yeah, poor thing. I hope that we don't see that much drinking from him again.
It's never a good sign.
Mm-mm.
Slightly lighter note, Marianne and Connell.
Mm-hmm.
I want to discuss the scholarship situation.
Yes.
Because we know why Connell needs the scholarship.
Yes.
Marianne does it just as like a trophy to prove she's the smartest smart girl in all of the smart world. Mm-hmm. And there is something about Marianne getting 5 years of free tuition, a room and board, free meals, all that I find particularly galling. And it's not that she hasn't earned it. I get that she has.
Yeah.
But she admits in the novel she has no concept of the amount of money that this is worth. Yeah. She's just doing it to prove a point. And I think there are people that need those resources being denied them by this rich girl. Like, I can't help it. The little working class girl in me is very pissed off. It's distasteful. I'm just like, girl, this is annoying.
Yeah.
I get it, you're smart, or whatever. But happy for Connell. Love you, Connell.
Oh, yeah.
Working class king.
Thrilled for him. Here's a thought. If this was something that would occur to Marianne, but, she's getting ready to go spend time at her family's Italian villa. What the fuck? If...
Not that I'm not happy about that for her. Like, very good for me.
But, if she wanted to basically tell her family to piss off and die, she's basically set. She doesn't have to take another penny from them.
She won't do that. Because, as we said, she's about to go to her family's Italian villa.
I know, but maybe there will come a time where she does do that. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
But the problem is that the entire reason... She's not thinking like that when she's applying to do...
Oh, of course not.
Skulls.
Yeah, of course not.
Which is the problem I have. It's her rationale. And it's like, oh, this is just another example of how she is disconnected from the real world. There's a moment in the novel where her bitchy, mean mother says something about how she's worried that the real world will come as quite a shock for her. And I found myself agreeing with the evil mother, where I was like, yeah, because she hasn't got a job. She has no concept of, like, what money is or how hard it is to come by. She's just floating around through life.
Yeah. But whose fault is that?
Definitely her parents.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming her, but I'm saying, like, this is a thing with her, that she sort of considers herself above class. There's the whole conversation she has with Joanna on the phone in the supermarket, where she's talking to Joanna's got a summer job, and they have this really annoying, pretentious conversation where Marianne is like, oh, I don't buy into the morality of work, of blah, 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 and do you not object to you're giving away chunks of your life for money? And Joanna's just like, well, whether I'm in work or not, the time is going past. Like, I'll never get the time back, but this way I get money. Like, this is just... Everything is, like, intellectual for Marianne. She thinks, like, the subject of having any kind of employment is intellectual, and it's just... I just want to be like, girl, you don't have a choice. Normal people don't have a choice. You either work or you starve. Like, you need to realize that, like, you can't intellectualize everything. It's very frustrating with her. Sometimes I'm just like, girl, you need to maybe detach from that family and see what the real world is like for normal people.
Yeah.
And the way she just hands over, like, hey, I'm just gonna give my friend 300 euros. He just needs 10 to get home. Like, do you know, it's just...
Yeah.
The way she treats money is very, like, blasé, and it makes me uncomfortable. Like, girl.
Oh, you need a coming to Jesus meeting.
She really just, like, I don't know. Like, her mum should have made her work in, like, the local shop when she was 15 or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Would have done her a world of good.
So she has some concept of how hard it is to make money, or how annoying it is to make money. Yeah.
Oy. Favorite performances?
Paul Mescal.
Of course.
Paul Mescal. I've got to give it to whoever was drunk the most in an episode. Not like Marianne's drunk was very fun. This drunk was sad and desperate and dangerous and emotionally devastating. So.
Yep. I am going to need to... You're going to just kill me for this one.
Who are you? Not Jamie.
Oh, hell no. I thought Peggy was right up there.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very good actress.
Yeah, she is.
Apparently she's very nice, so the fact that she's playing such a heinous bitch so well is...
Yeah, kudos to her. But yeah, she's doing a really good job.
The resentment was just reeking off her. She was barely on screen, but you knew that she was pissed that Marianne got the scholarship and she hadn't.
Oh, yeah.
Another girl that absolutely does not need that scholarship. Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah. Oy. Favorite scene?
That's in the supermarket where they see each other.
Yes.
I know that's like a ridiculously small moment, but their expressions, I was like, oh, we've all been there.
Oh, they look like deer in the headlights. Just kind of like, what? Oh.
Just trapped, like, under fluorescent lighting. Like, I can't move, he's seen me.
Yes.
I can't hide behind the cabbages.
I can't sneak out of here. Nope, I'm stuck. I really enjoyed the scene where they're announcing the scholarships.
A rare happy win.
And you see the two of them meet eyes from across the quad. And it's a really sweet moment. And I really enjoyed that.
But also, Niall was there to call him a fucking nerd, which made it just...
Yes.
I love that.
I love Niall.
So, costumes and hair and makeup.
There was nothing really that caught my eye.
I'm about to dissect the shit out of it.
Oh, okay. Lord. Okay, here we go, people.
So,
strap in.
The past 2 episodes, I thought Marianne's wardrobe was fairly normal for her, but she was back to being incredibly performative again. Like, the two that stood out for me. I think she's over her 70s vibe, because we got, like, when she's meeting Connell for a coffee, she's in that all black, big, long, drapey coat, the black jumper. It's all very, like, modern and sleek. And she reminded me of, like, a sophisticated Parisian that goes and drinks coffee and smokes cigarettes and talks about her sex life all the time. I thought that was just... She was putting on an act of, this is how I think sophisticated women are who go and meet their ex-lovers for coffees.
Yes. Another set of armor for her.
It's just so obvious with her costuming. I love that. And then also there's this big 1950s housewife aesthetic going on with the red dress, with the black sash. She's the hostess with the mostess.
Yes.
And again, I think she's performatively submissive. She's refilling people's drinks. She's like, hey, come to my house and have dinner. It's like the Stepford wife era, I guess, where she's got this shitty relationship with Jamie, and they're like the mum and dad of their friendship group that host all of their friends.
Man.
Yeah. I look forward to discussing her
in Italy.
Oh my god, she goes full Italy, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Oh my.
She really, like, I respect her dedication to putting on a show.
Well, God knows no one can see the real her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Connell can.
Yes.
Nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Locations and photography.
I think what this show does really well is beautiful shots in cars.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment at the end where he's in the taxi, like with the window open, staring out, I was like, "Oh, that's beautiful." But there's also the shot, and they're in the car when it's raining, and there's like, I just think the lighting and the way the water was reflected everywhere was just, it had like this otherworldly brightness about it, which was just made it really beautiful, and intense. It managed just. There's something about, like, whenever they're in that tiny Ford Fiesta where it's like, it's just beautiful in there. I don't know what happens when they get in that car, but it's just magical. I don't know how they make such something so mundane beautiful, but it works.
And how they do it in something that is that small.
I know that you think that's small, but that you have American car standards, and let's be honest, that's not normal. Your cars are all like the size of my front room. You can't drive an American car down like the tiny streets of Sligo.
That is for sure. Oh my gosh.
That would be a mess.
I mean, I still remember when I was in Cornwall and for the first time. And, we're driving along these little country roads. And there are these people, we're in a fairly small car, but, not tremendously small. And there are people coming by in like vans and SUVs. And they're just bombing. And I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus, just get me out of here, please. Get me safe.
Cornish locals don't drive gigantic trucks.
No.
They're not stupid. It's the tourists doing that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But no. But yeah, it's just such a cute little car, and they're able to do amazing things with the photography in that car.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you seen, like, shitty movies where it's just, like, you can tell the car's on the back of a truck and it's just the most bland thing you've ever seen?
Yeah. Ugh.
Meanwhile, this show is like, let's make the Ford Fiesta a magic land.
It's a magic carriage.
I did keep thinking, like, while they were having that conversation, I was like, you've had sex in that car, by the way.
I know, right?
This is awkward.
Yeah, did it right there. Oh, my.
Poor Connell's girlfriend, whose name I never remember because she's irrelevant. She's probably driving around in that car, not knowing.
Not having any idea of the shenanigans that have gone on. No.
Oh, what's Connell reading?
What is he reading this week?
I couldn't find any in this week's episode.
There we go.
But the novel, Connell gives a presentation on La Mort d'Arthur. Sorry to all the French people. I am still not a French speaker. By Sir Thomas Malroy. It was actually, despite the French title, written in Middle English. No, why are we teaching Middle? That's a completely different language. Okay, so it would be like if you signed up for an English literature course and then they made you read a book in Russian. You would be like, this is the wrong language. But Middle English it's a different language.
Oh,
I'm very resentful of my times having to read Chaucer. That was a different language, and how dare you? Okay, but La Mort d'Arthur is the quote-unquote complete story of Arthur from his conception to his death.
Uh-huh.
This dude compiled and rearranged, interpreted material from various French and English sources, because the Legend of Arthur has been in I don't know, there's like, it might have existed since always. I think maybe always. It's an interesting work to drop in at this point in the novel, because those of us familiar with the Arthur legend are also familiar with the Lancelot and Guinevere subplot.
Yep.
Star-crossed lovers cheating on your husband. It's one of the most famous love triangles of all time. And I think there's a definite, not to call Jamie King Arthur because that would be grossly inappropriate, but potentially is the vibe she's going for with this reference. Forbidden love across time. So, anything you didn't like?
Jamie.
Let me say, Jamie, still not the worst person in this episode.
Oh, no.
That goes out to Miss Neary.
Yep. Miss Neary.
Fuck you, Miss Neary. Another example of how the patriarchy fails men, because he would have been protected from that kind of predatory teacher relationship if he was a young woman.
Yeah. Although they seem to happen over here all the damn time these days.
Yeah, but it's very normalized, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got another one heating up here.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Why does it happen so much in America?
I don't know.
Probably because the patriarchy is so incredibly ingrained. He's a strapping young lad, is our Connell.
Yes.
They all thought it was very funny that she was flirting with him, but it was a fucking serious situation, and I think bravo to Sally Rooney for pointing out the fucking hypocrisy and how this would obviously emotionally scar a young strapping lad like Connell. And now I've said it, I can't stop thinking he's a strapping young lad. How many Communist Manifestos out of 5?
I'm giving it 4.
Samesies.
Yep, you have hyped up this Italy episode that, it's like I am holding the horses back.
Look, how often do I hype things?
Not very often.
I'm a very miserable person, so for me to enjoy this episode this much, it's got to be pretty good. You're going to enjoy yourself, I'm telling you.
Okay, all right.
Okay, inbox.
Yes.
Hello, ladies. Ugh, what a mess. If only he had asked to stay with her. I kind of sense a pattern here. He says things he doesn't mean. Things get messy between them for months. He comes back and explains, only to realise that he was overthinking the situation to begin with. And now here I am, flirting with the idea of binging the next 5 episodes, so I don't have to go through this again in 2 weeks. And Marianne, my sweet and little problematic girl, I have to agree with Connell. I'd rather you dating the man who robbed him. Cosign.
Yes.
You see, I have a theory about people like Jamie with their white penis privilege. As long as they're smart women who are validating their insecurities by giving them sex, they will continue being a burden to society. Oh no, but when we don't give them sex, they become incels, and that is just as bad.
Yeah.
A little side note on a completely different subject. Teachers pursuing their students, even if they've left school, should be illegal. Agreed. If you must, at least give it a 5-year gap. Otherwise, they're a 19-year-old version of their 18-year-old self, whom you were teaching. Icky is the word. Well, that's all. Have a good one. KK.
Thanks, KK.
Thanks, KK. While reading that, I just remembered that one of my drama teacher actually married and had a baby with someone who left school maybe 2 years out of school. I went to that school, and that's not. Why have we normalized this? There should be rules and laws, and don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Michelle and Rita. I like Connell a lot, but this episode made me realize he is a mess when it comes to Marianne. He has made her cry in the last couple of episodes. He doesn't take her love for him seriously. Marianne is dating on the rebound. Jamie is not good for her, but I think Connell is jealous of him. Even though Helen looks like a sweet person to Connell, I'm afraid he is going to hurt her because eventually he will realize he loves Marianne more. I think Connell wants Marianne in his life, even if they are only friends. I think Connell may be realizing he truly loves Marianne more than just a friend with benefits. Can't wait for your podcast, Delia. Thanks, Delia.
Thanks, Delia. Okay, for two people who spend all their time reading and submersed in the English language, they are not very good at using it. Eye roll emoji. I'm still not clear as to why Connell goes from, quote, I've lost my job, can't pay my rent, and moving home for the summer, end quote, straight to, I guess you want to see other people, question mark, question mark. What and why?
Yeah.
Because he's a boy, he dumb.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't Marianne challenge that and offer him a room? Now we have all this self-loathing and distress on both sides. It's exhausting to watch. How is this cycle going to break? Oh, I know. Several months later, whilst drunk and beaten up, Connell actually talks about her miscommunication. ... But seriously, where is Niall when you need a dose of sense and sensibility? Eye roll emoji. I noticed that great cello music always comes with great sadness and melancholia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the orchestration on this show is amazing, though. My heart sinks when hearing Marianne talk about her relationships with the two men in her life and the realization that the relationship with Connell was real, caring, and truthful, whereas the one with Jamie is fake and she's pretending to be present with him and what she subjects herself to because she just wants to please. It's just so sad. Will Marianne ever sort this poop emoji out? Question mark. Rita, Italy can't come soon enough. Ciao, ciao, Maria. Fear not, it is the next episode.
The next episode. I'm expecting a lot of, they're going to get rid of all of the blue filters.
Oh, yeah.
And
yellow
it's going to
filters
be
from here on out.
Sunny. Let's see. Okay. Hi, girls. Morgana here. So I didn't write last week because it was very busy, and honestly, this second part of the season is so traumatizing for me that I delayed writing and lost the deadline. This week, I really need to exercise the exercise of writing in English. I could use the exercise of reading in English, but So here we go.
It's like we're tired. I'm sorry.
In this episode, the discomfort reaches a very high level. The breakup scene is so ridiculous. There are literally 2 sentences from each of them, and the only thing I want to do is shout at the TV, elaborate! I know the
Nobody
topic is
speaks
difficult.
like that, though. I think that what this show does is very good. Is just have people go, yeah, so do you want to, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
That,
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah,
I do, okay. That's a conversation, okay?
All right. I know the topic is difficult, but they both throw loose sentences and neither of them elaborate or develop the dialogue. They assume what the other person means and follow. If one of them had asked the fucking question, what do you mean by that? Or whatever. But this is just the beginning. We start with the return of drunk Connell and the teacher making out. Let's talk about this. So I was a high school teacher in Brazil. The topic, teacher dating students, is a recurring topic in the teacher's room. I know Connell is of age, but I think in this case, it's not about the relationship being legal. It's about the position of power. Yeah, okay?
Yep.
Like I was saying.
Agreed.
In my somewhat generalized opinion, I think students are interested in teachers because they are always experts in something that the student doesn't know and is very interested in. This makes the teacher seem super special and smart because he is the embodiment of the dream of the future that the student wants. And by dating the teacher, this puts him on an equal footing with the wisdom of the teacher, who would not date someone stupid, at the same time that it gives the feeling that this future where the student knows is assured and that he was chosen among everyone to be the teacher's boyfriend. Either way, he becomes different amongst his other students.
Special, I'm the chosen one.
As for the teacher, I think it's a question of ego. of being deified by someone who sees him in a better light always, like a hero. That said, I've had several conversations with my colleagues about the so-called romantic relationship with students, especially when they are of legal age and are in college or professional courses. I'm completely against it. I find it embarrassing to think about having my boyfriend in class while I work, not to mention the age difference. I had a friend who started dating a student. She was 29, separated and with a 10-year-old daughter. And he was 20 years old, starting college to become a teacher too. I remember she told me that if we teachers had a more positive methodology where we see the student as a co-creator of the learning process and not just as a recipient of my knowledge, then I wouldn't put myself in a position of superiority.
That is some bullshit. Red flags.
This way, the position of power does not exist. Therefore, I am able to relate to a student without him deifying me. I found the argument valid. If you don't think your profession makes you better, or if you don't use your position of power in exchange for sexual favors, a genuine relationship may emerge there.
Yeah,
but
a
honestly,
friendship?
Huh?
A friendship can emerge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. But let's not pretend that sex is not involved here.
But honestly, I don't think this happens in all teacher-student relationships. And in Connell's case, I think it's completely disgusting. Because it shows that she had sexual interests in him, that when he blushed when talking to her, it wasn't because he had a crush on her, but because he was probably realizing that she was flirting with him, and he didn't know what to do. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that when I was 21 years old, I started teaching high school, and there were 17 and 18-year-old boys who went to the gym and had abs. I think that I didn't think they were handsome. I once remember talking to a colleague with my who's my age, and she said that because of daily coexistence, sometimes it was necessary to remind ourselves that they were minors and that it was unethical. But that's what being an adult is, isn't it? It's about having desires in several problematic places, but using your brain and emotional maturity to make rational and ethical choices. Isn't a straightforward answer? What do you girls think? Oh, I think we've waxed poetic about it.
The thing is like, I think that the age is irrelevant. I see situations in universities with like adult students and professors as immoral. I just think it's just immoral across the board. Age is not the problem here. I do believe it is a position of authority. If you have any kind of what am I working for? Any kind of difference in power, and you have any kind of authority over someone, no. Workplace relationships are a problem. If that's your boss, don't date them, etc., etc. Across the board, no. No. Keep it in your pants, people. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Just come on.
Okay, remember when I said they just needed to start elaborating better? Elaborate better, answer, and questions? I definitely didn't mean that Connell should ask for details about Marianne's sex life, and she shouldn't respond. This conversation gives me goosebumps.
She's the one that initiated the conversation, which is what made it so fucking weird. Connell would never ask.
Yeah.
He's a good repressed
He wouldn't want to know.
Boy. He's repressed as fuck.
Why are you putting yourself in this position? Well, he really didn't. So, okay, I'm going to stop that paragraph. I'm sorry. But, Marianne is the one that
this is Marianne's fault.
Pushed it. I confess that the scene with Marianne winning the scholarship really irritated me the first time I watched it. And nowadays, it just doesn't irritate me anymore because I know that in the future it will be useful to her.
Okay, but in my defense, I get irritated because she doesn't know that, and that's what's important.
Right.
That's what's important.
Yeah. But the reality is that students with parents with money to pay for their education, who use their privileged education to get scholarships, which for them and their parents are just certificates of intelligence and some social merit, just gets me in a bad way. Because they end up taking away the opportunity from students who really needed this scholarship because of the financial challenges. This is a sensitive subject for me. It's truth that Marianne didn't study at an elite private school, but when I saw this scene, I only thought about the person who came in second. What if she was poor like Connell? Did she have to drop out of college in second year because she couldn't pay? This is just another layer of the socioeconomic differences between Marianne and Connell. Because it's not about him not being smart enough, but because she doesn't have to work or worry about rent and other details of everyday life. She has more time to study for the test than he does. And she has less psychological pressure to go through in her studies, because for her to pass, it's a bonus, which makes passing the test easier for her, as she has fewer social and economic challenges to overcome. So every time I rewatched Normal People, I stopped at episode 5 and skipped to the last one. It's
skipped
just
Italy? Sorry.
It's just that now everything becomes a shit show. That last conversation, I honestly wanted to kill Connell. If I were Marianne, I would have let him walk home. When he says that he is not affected by her charm because he knew her from school, I felt like throwing the mug of boiled water in his face. Not that I don't share feelings of revulsion for Jamie. He is the worst. But right now, Connell is just acting like a shitty ex. This boy still has a lot to learn. P.S. Last week, a listener commented on the Austen adaptations this month on Hallmark, but I have a worse tip than that. In 2018, a novella or soap opera was made in Brazil that mixed all 6 Austen stories into the same universe.
Send the link immediately.
Oh,
I
God.
need this.
They were moved to Brazil in the first decade of the 20th century. Elizabeth was a feminist in her pants who went to live with Darcy without getting married. Emma left Mr. Knightley for a factory worker and chose to become a worker too. And Fanny was a villainous housekeeper who had a revenge plan against the family that prevented her from marrying her cousin.
I need to know what happened with Catherine. This is imperative. Okay, so that's our next show planned.
And people thought that Netflix Persuasion was the worst. Okay, girl, I think that is all. Have a lovely weekend. See you, Morgana. Thanks Morgana.
That was a great email. And I'm serious. Send me the link.
Yeah, please do. That sounds like a ball.
I can help translate some of it, not all of it, because I find Brazilian Portuguese so complicated. But I'll give it a good shot. Okay, episode 8 summary. I don't know why I added contains strong language. I will remove that.
I was going to say, they all have. Oh, well.
As do our podcasts. We believe in strong language here at In the Books. Okay. Connell visits Marianne at her family's summer home in Italy, where tensions between her and Jamie reach a new high. We're in Italy, guys.
Wonderful.
Look, we're in Italy. Marianne is finally arguing with Jamie. I promise you they eat gelato. It's all good. If you're reading along with the episodes, then this episode covers page 153 to 184, or chapter 14 in the audiobook. Just one chapter. You get to really, bask in the sunshine.
Well, okay, people, that's all for this episode. We'll be back next week discussing Italy. If you want to get involved in the podcast, you can email us at inthebooksnetwork@gmail.com. We are on Insta, so please follow if you want fun bonus content and updates on the podcast. If you enjoyed the pod, please rate, review, and tell your friends. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye!
Bye!